Welcome to episode 142 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Sunday night. And look, we're back. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving week here. And then, of course, Black Friday, right? If you were out shopping, hope that went well for you as well. But otherwise, right back after a great week of sports. I think the key thing, right? The Green Bay Packers. I don't have the Packer flag up, but the key win, right, for Green Bay on Thanksgiving. What a win. 8.5 point underdogs, projected to lose by over a touchdown. Come into Ford Field in Detroit, get the job done, walk out with a win, and just an exciting game overall. Then we go to the Milwaukee Bucks, who had themselves an interesting last 3 days. I think the big thing, right, was okay, you got to win that in-season tournament game. They struggled in there against Detroit, or not Detroit, Washington rather, and they get that close win in the in-season tournament against the team they should have beat by. It felt a lot, and then they play a struggling Portland team today on Sunday, and they get the win. So I had a perfect week in the in the Bucks prediction challenge. Rather, predicted each game, the outcome for the four this week. But I feel this week, not to give myself a pat on the back, was pretty easy. Again, let's look back at it. Washington, Boston, Washington, Portland. Like sometimes those two, playing an opponent twice in a week's tough, but usually when it's a team of Washington's caliber against a team like Milwaukee's caliber, it's usually doable. And then, no Brewers to talk about to an extent, but the Brewers promo schedule was leaked. I'm looking right now. I'll share a little bit what I know on it. But I'm wondering, because I did see some things on it. So we'll talk about that too. But that's the plan here for episode 142 regarding scheduling. This upcoming week, Journey Million Wednesday at 4 p.m. the usual time there. We moved it up an hour early last week just with the holiday, so with Thanksgiving there. So that's why that was done. But from there, we're going to just keep the consistent Wednesday schedule. I do have an episode of the Wisconsin Sports Spotlight in the works right now. I have a guest lined up. It's just right. You all know, just getting that guest on a specific time frame, the logistics, working those out. So looking forward to that though. But from there, that's the plan this week here. At Drew Sports Crew, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Also on YouTube Shorts, right? If you're listening or watching on YouTube, I appreciate it. But again, the shorts, going through those each week. I have a lot of content, whether it's power rankings for the NBA, whether we're doing the Bucks prediction challenge. I bring up here. Just give the page a follow either on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube is where those get posted each and every day. There's content. And then also, right, I do Packers and Bucks players of the game or week, right? For the Packers, it's player of the game. Bucks player of the week. This week was Brook Lopez, and rightfully so. We'll get into that. But then also I go on the NFL side. 10 teams thrown at me, and without knowing the next one, I'm going to rank them. So that's been what I do each week here throughout the NFL season, and just things like that. So I'm looking forward to. I'm going to start doing that too for basketball, and then hopefully when baseball runs around, just to, just where always be thinking like where would you rank teams. So it's good. Like for me, one is like, okay, the Bucks, where are they at right now? Are they better than Denver if we're looking at their resume right now? Are they worse? And right now the record points, they have more wins than Denver, but are you taking them over Denver? So just breaking down those kinds of matchups are always fun. And just thinking about how things hurt, for one team. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but it's important. Like Boston loses to Orlando. How does that affect, how you think, how people perceive that team? It's just an interesting dynamic, I think. So that's that's just one piece of the content that you can see after Sports Crew. So those are the announcements here. And let's get into some of the content here. To start, we're going to go to the Packer game, and what a game it was, a 29-22 win at Ford Field, and that's what people are thankful for. They are thankful for a Packers win, and that's what they got. The Packers upset, a 20-point first quarter, a defensive touchdown. And look, it was a great game for Jordan Love too. 22 of 32, 3 passing touchdowns, no picks, and just to start the game. Right after that opening drive, they have the big play to Watson. Dylan gets some ground, and then they get the touchdown too. Right after that, for me, it was like, okay, that was the best Packers offensive drive of the season, right there. Right when how they start the game like that, there's no denying that, in my opinion. And Packers did exactly what they need to do. They needed to go up early, put some points on the board, and put Detroit in the spot where they need to pass the football. Right? Detroit's still on the ground, average 4.5 yards per carry. They were very good running the ball again. But the thing is, they couldn't do it 45, 50 times. They didn't have the type of time of possession. They didn't have the type of time to do that. And for the Packers, they were able to just handle defensively, just Jared Goff, who really struggled with holding on to the football. We saw some rough throws, 29-44, had some ugly ones in there, had a grounding in there. And Amon-Ra St. Brown still put up numbers, 9 for 95. Laporta had himself a day, 5 for 47 with a touchdown. So it was just a very, very balanced attack for Detroit, which was solid. But again, Goff had lost 3 fumbles. You got to hold on to the football. And that was just a big thing that hurt this Detroit team. And this defense, I personally think this defense is a little overrated, in my opinion, with Detroit. And I don't know if people, think that, they were 8-2 coming in. Like this was just a phenomenal defense, but the defense is honestly overrated. Right? They gave a bunch of points to like the Chargers, for example. They give up, it's hard to say 29. They kind of got some turnovers in there that was not ideal, but Packers held on to the ball. My point is this Detroit defense, there's some young guys in it, right? Like Campbell and Branch, and Hutchinson's still solid, but this defense is inexperienced. I think is one thing, right? Anzalone, right? Throw him in there, who brings in years of experience, but it felt like Detroit just on the defensive side, at least these past few weeks, has not been to a standard that they want to be at. Where if they want to compete for that 1 seed in the NFC, so just something I thought about and have observed throughout the game. Just felt defensively that where they're at. For Green Bay, Jonathan Owens, right, scores that touchdown. Had a tackle for a loss. He had a phenomenal game. He was in on a lot of plays. I don't want to say almost every play, right? That's the expression you always hear, but honestly, here that's what you saw for Owens. Just very active, which is what you want to see, especially from safety here. And then Isaiah McDovey had 11 tackles. Just a lot of guys need to step up. Jair was out. Campbell was out. Quay Walker was in there, which was good to see. But player of the game, Rashawn Gary. Come on. How can you not love his story? 3 sacks. He had a great game, but I think what means the most here is, right, a year ago at Ford Field, tears his ACL out for the year, comes back, gets a big deal, big extension, comes in, a 3-sack game. He's had a great season. Just add this game to it, but his season now he's up to 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. By the way, he had both those in the game against Detroit, those 2 forced fumbles. But just looking at the sacks, right, 8.5, he's on a solid pace. He's going to get to double-digit sacks, you would assume, for Green Bay. And he's someone who just, at 25, you just want to keep seeing him explode, right, and just keep growing here. And hopefully he can just keep getting those sack numbers up. You just love to see it, and continuing to be like the Packers' premier edge rusher is what they need. And this is why just brings up a great point is why do the defensive ends, why do the pass rushers get the big money? Think about the impact he had on that game. The 2 forced fumbles, 3 sacks, like the 2 forced fumbles alone, getting the ball for your team 2 times, just one player on the defense out of 11 guys there. And of course, there's guys changing, but being on the field at that time, being consistent there, making those plays, right? Rashawn Gary was just such a huge asset. So that's where looking at what he did for the team, that's where for him, player of the game was no question. Right. I know Jordan Love, right, being quarterback played great. Right. He was definitely the offensive MVP of the game, but overall I was just pleased with both those guys. The run game. Oh boy. Jaden Reed needs to get the ball more running. He had 2 rush attempts only. How he looks with the ball in his hands. He needs to be used almost like Jahmyr Gibbs, which I'm not saying he needs to transition to running back, but look, AJ Dillon's not doing the job. We know this. What did I say? I said this week 2, maybe. Like I threw the towel in weeks ago, 9 weeks ago maybe, and we're still at the same point where it's still not looking great. AJ Dillon, 14 to 43, 3.81 yards per carry. The reason it's so high is there's a 17-yard run in there. Take out those 13 of what was it, 27? Yeah, that's what you saw. A whole lot of nothing today. And then Patrick Taylor got 3 carries for 11 yards. And then Jordan Love even had some rushes in there. That 37-yard run he had. Just another great play for him. This was a game where we saw the targets being allocated in a way we wanted to. Not obviously, right, Aaron Jones was out, so not to that extent that I bring up, but Jaden Reed led the team in targets. I love that. He was 4 for 34 with a touchdown. Christian Watson was 5 for 94. That's the stuff you want to see. 7 targets for Watson vertically. He is getting the ball in deep threat, and he's making the most of it. And then talk about Malik Heath, right? Your East and West guy who had some very nice catches there and some crucial third downs. 4 for 46 for Heath in that one. He caught all 4 of his targets. That's what you like to see. Dillon, of course, gets involved in the passing game. When doesn't he? 3 for 38. Romeo Dobbs, 3 for 37. And then I mentioned Reed. Tucker Kraft. I love Tucker Kraft coming out here. I believe it was South Dakota. And big thing about Kraft, just how he is in the passing game. He is a great blocker, too, and can be used in the passing game. I just, for Kraft, I think, right? I mean, we know Musgrave's the better talent. There's no denying that, but still having Kraft on his football team and still being able to lean on him, especially when Musgrave's on the IR, is huge. And he catches a touchdown today, 2 targets only, but he's going to be solid in the red zone, and that's where Packers need to capitalize there. We talked about the defense, right? Those guys, and just overall, great win for Packers. Win of the year, easily right now. No denying that, but right, we get to the next week here, week 13. Is it already? Is it already? It's already week 13. It's just crazy to me. Football season's flying. Already 12 weeks through week 13. It's a tough one. Sunday Night Football. Packers get their shot on Sunday night, and they go to why I say they go to, they host Kansas City. And the Chiefs, I don't want to say they've struggled, but they haven't played to the standards they've wanted to, right? I mean, they start down 14-0 against the Raiders. Brutal, but still make the most of it and get the win. We have back-to-back primetime games, though, right? They go from Sunday Night Football to Monday Night Football. That's an ugly Monday Night Football game. It's going to be Giants Packers. Tickets are starting for $32 right now per ESPN. So that just blows my mind. The at Carolina game on Christmas Eve, 36. Yikes. But right now for the Packers, it has gone their way. Right, these last 2, they've won 3 of their last 4. They are in the thick of the playoff push. I cannot believe it. Right? I mean, if you win 3 of 4, they're in a nice spot. So they are the 8th seed right now. They have the tiebreak. So tiebreakers that we didn't think were going to matter now matter coming in. They have the tiebreaker over the Rams, who are 5 and 6. They have the tiebreaker over the Saints, 5 and 6. They beat them head to head. That's the only matchups against them this year. And what's going to come down to if they make the playoffs. They're going to be either the 6 or the 7 if they make it. They have to be out Minnesota or Seattle, who are both 6-5. Again, Green Bay's 5-6. Minnesota plays Chicago. They play them tomorrow night, Monday Night Football. If they lose that game right now, you better be a Bears fan. The Packers need it for the Bears here. They lose that, they go to 6-6. Green Bay will have the last matchup of the regular season against Minnesota too. And division record too matters. Currently Minnesota's 2-0 in the division, so that's got to change if they want to make any sort of push. But right now the Packers are just in a spot where Minnesota could lose that. Hopefully, they're only 3-point favorites right now, is what I saw. So they predict a close game in Minnesota too. And then Seattle, they have a tough matchup. They play Dallas on Thursday. If Dallas can win that against Seattle, that's gonna be huge for Green Bay. They move to 6-6. I'm not saying the Packers are gonna win next week against Kansas City, but that's a game that could come back. Where, of course, that Atlanta game, just looking back at it, Atlanta and Denver right now, those two games that were, close ones, just in hindsight, if you win those, it looks a lot nicer, but just need the Packers to, they lose that one. They got to win the Giants, Buccaneers, and Panthers. They got to win those 3. I get the only to 8 wins though, so you got to beat the Bears too. That would get you to 9. And look, I'm not saying they're making the playoffs, but they did have coming in a relatively easy schedule. And I'm just afraid if they get it to 8 and they don't make the playoffs, it's gonna be like, okay, lose out on some draft picks, like on draft pick spots. And right, the fan in you right, the fan in a lot of us wants the team to win, but right, looking at how it impacts the team down the road, we know this team is not going to be able to compete with Philly or San Francisco in the NFC, right? So just knowing that the implications down the road might not be as ideal as we want, but just looking at that, that's the Packer talk for the week. A little lengthier, of course, after a great win. Why not? But let's go over to Bucks basketball, talk about what's going on there. And I already kind of alluded to it. You go 3-1 in a 4-game week. You'll take it. They lose. So you start in Washington on Monday. You win 142 to 129. Giannis, it was the Giannis show. 42, 13, and 8. That'll get the win. But then you see something on Wednesday and Friday. You see leading scorer Brook Lopez. Right? You'd love to see that. But Wednesday, you don't love to see the result, a 119, 116 loss. Final score, in my opinion, quite misleading. It kind of felt the Bucks were just out of it, like throughout the game. They get a little close at the end, but too late. Bucks outscore them 37-25 in the 4th, but they still lose by 3. So that kind of tells you how that game was going for the Bucks. Again, Lopez was 12 of 18. Drew Holiday returns against the Bucks, and unfortunate showing. Just overall for Holiday. Defensively, definitely made an impact, but 1 for 8 from the field. You love to see Holiday back with the squad. You love it. He was in the locker room, right? I think he's going to go down as a Milwaukee, as just a great player for this Milwaukee squad who made an impact. So just keep that in mind. And I think for the Bucks, what really hurt was Porzingis, had a nice game. He was 9 for 15 with 21 points, +3, ±. Felt he had an impact. Sam Hauser, right? You go into those guys. I was surprised with how the rotation, like, we knew Boston didn't have any depth, but holy smokes, they don't have depth. And that's where you see them get picked off by a team like Orlando, right? I mean, they are going to run to a spot in the regular season where they're going to have to rest some guys. The 8-man rotation, right? They're the best starting 5 in all basketball with Tatum, Porzingis, Holiday, White, and Brown. I think there's no denying that. But then the bench here, the three guys who they rotate, Peyton Pritchard, right, who we've seen work with them over the years, who, solid bench guy who comes in, hot hand, like Bryn Forbes kind of guy. Then you get Al Horford. Okay, you have the savvy vet who does a great job, defensively, and it's gonna, he's not the same guy. He's gonna get you, maybe 10 points, maybe 5, 6 rebounds, maybe a couple assists. And then you have Sam Hauser, who's, um, the guy catch and shoot corner three guy. Boom. Okay. With those three guys on the bench, they played a combined 72 minutes. And they had the best plus minus is on the team. Plus 10 for Hauser, 4 for 5, 2 for 3 from 3 in 20 minutes. Horford, 31 minutes, starter minutes off the bench, plus 5. He had 11 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. And then Pritchard throws in 10 points. And it was like, okay. So in my opinion, too, with Boston, like they played well at home. There's no denying that, but they got some performances out of the bench that I don't think are going to be sustainable. Like I look at a 7-game series, this is not happening. And looking at the rest of their team, O'Shea Brissett, Lamar Stevens, there are guys on this in their rest of the rotation, right? Who are guys who have been around for a couple seasons now, but like Luke Cornett, these are guys who unfortunately probably aren't going to be ones you want in a playoff series, let alone right in regular season game here. They didn't play. The Bucks, however, they're able to go deeper. So Giannis played 37 minutes, but then, going through it, it was Lopez played 34, 38, but Beasley 23, and then they have a lot more depth, right? You see, and even with Jay Crowder out, right, the Bucks are dealing with that right now. You see they're able to thrive because they have, right, Portis can come off, give you a good 20 minutes. That's where the Bucks just have a huge advantage, I feel. But then Beauchamp gives you 22 minutes, Campaign 10, Connaughton 20, Jackson 8. That you're able to just really sprout the minutes from a lot of different guys. So you're able to run a 10-man rotation. And with Crowder probably a 10-man rotation still, but I really like how they're able to leverage that. So that's just the key thing that I had for the Bucks, where in this one at least, just we're seeing how they're going to play these games against really good opponents moving forward. And then Friday and Sunday, we got to talk about Sunday, right? Friday, they close win, Wizards. Lopez, 39 points, ties his career high. Crazy game. I think that's just a way to sum it up. It was a wild in-season tournament game, and just perimeter defense was an issue for the Bucks against the Wizards this week, and we saw it again that night. But I want to go to Portland, right? At home, Dame's return against them, our first matchup against them, and it was an interesting one. Bucks were down 26 points in the third quarter, and they come back to win. That's just one you don't see a lot. And of course, it happened against the 4-12 Portland Trailblazers, right? I mean, they played out of their mind to start, is one thing I'd say. But that's at one point with win probability. If you want to hear, I'm looking at ESPN where it touched. I think it was it up to 99. I see it at 97 was the high I see right now. It was up to 98.4. So 98.1, 98.4. So you see that, and it's like, wow. Portland blew it. But it was a wild game. This was a game I was actually looking at going to. I ended up not, unfortunately, but looking at how the Bucks performed, right? I mean, it's the beauty of being able to create points quickly. That's what you can do in NBA. You can do that in the NBA. You can, right, whether it's the 24-second shot clock, whether it is just getting turnovers, they were able to just do a great job at that. And the Bucks did turn the ball over 17 times. This was not a good game for them, but Portland, with that inexperience I mentioned, 20 turnovers. Bucks were able to just capitalize on that. I think that was a big thing. Some timely shooting always will help out. Getting to the free throw line was a big thing for the Bucks because, right, what does that do? Stop the clock. That's exactly what they needed. It was cool to see Andre Jackson start in this game, to start, but didn't take a single shot. Didn't provide a whole lot. Pretty empty stat sheet, 1 board in 12 minutes. So just seems he's finding his footing right now. But Malik Beasley has been, just such a huge asset to this team. 36 minutes. He had 3 steals, plus 16, plus minus 14 points. He puts up 4 threes with that. And just a nice game for him. Look, Dame, the stat sheet Dame, 7 for 21. It wasn't a great game offensively, it felt, but the work he does, plus 15, plus minus, made an impact on the court. Like the Bucks are a better team when he's on the court. It's same with like Giannis, right? It's just that common thing, right? They're better team when these guys are on the court. Although the player of the week, Brook Lopez, did not have a big game in this one, he still played well. 4 blocks in there, 3 steals, just a defensive menace. Right now, he's up there in DPOY for me, just with how he's performed. How many minutes he's playing, too, this year. Like, he is getting a lot of minutes, 31 today, and he's handling them very well, which you love to see. And Giannis also had 3 blocks and a steal, too. So, wanted to throw that in there. AJ Green got in there in this game. Thanasis was in there even for a little bit. Marjan got 9 minutes, but then Portis played 31. So good to see Portis get those starter level minutes too off the bench. You love to see it, but you like to see a Bucks win. That's the best part here. 3-1 this week, and then they have a couple games next week. The Bucks Prediction Challenge, of course, will be out tomorrow. They go to Miami on Tuesday against the Heat. That's going to be a good one. Thursday, then at Chicago. So that Tuesday one against Miami is on TNT, so national television for the Bucks yet again. And then Thursday at 7 p.m. And then Saturday they host Atlanta. They host the Hawks there at Pfizer, 7 p.m. tip there. So that's the Bucks schedule this week. Week 6 already of the season. It is flying by already. They're already 17 games. They're almost a quarter through. So that's what we're looking at right now. Brewers promo schedule, what I want to say is I think it's going to be out in the upcoming weeks. I did see some things that were leaked. It looked like only 2 bobbleheads. 1 or 2 bobbleheads. And then they're doing a lot more of the jersey stuff. So like the City Connect jersey, they're doing them Saturdays again too. And they're doing like the tumblers, things like that. Really, it's City Connect kind of vibe. And then I did see, so I mentioned they're going to be Saturdays again. There's one Sunday one. It's Father's Day was the one. They're not doing a Memorial Day one like this past year because they're playing the Cubs, so they don't need to. But I just found the giveaway schedule, how they've revamped it over the last few years. Less bobbleheads, more interesting stuff. Now Saturdays. Found it interesting. I'm wondering how they feel. Right? The goal is to boost Saturday attendance, and they have their own Sunday Fun Day thing, so we don't need it then. I get it, but just wondering I just hope we don't get to the point where they start doing them during the week, because I feel like those weeknight ones will just take away a lot of people, and sometimes those Saturday ones aren't even sellouts anyways. So why not still keep it? So that's my little rant on the promo schedule, but I'll let you know when it's officially out. Love to always talk about what games to go to and the fun stuff there. And, just looking forward to Brewers in summer, right? Again, of course, Point Brewery, right? Great sponsor here of the podcast, whether, right, their diet root beer is where I go, the 0.0 sugar, now rebranded. I was in the store again and I see it. They landed all the rebrandings and just a great tasting root beer. Actually enjoyed some this weekend for Thanksgiving as well. So keep them in mind as you go, and have a great week, everybody. That's going to wrap it up here for myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Sunday night. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.